All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try to make an actual quick video here for once. So, the question has come up that if there are changes in the pre-patch to Spirit Regeneration for TBC Classic coming out, what is the best gear to level with for our Shamans and our Paladins? Uh, the interesting answer to this, there's going to be an interesting answer to this. The short answer is that it's actually a mix of the Eagle and of the Owl gear. Of the Owl gear is actually really, really good in TBC. But really, what you're trying to do for both Shaman and Paladin is you're trying to have as thick of a mana bar as possible. You're trying to burn through your mana to help kill your enemies as fast as possible. For Paladin, it'll be like, Consecration and auto attacks and like all that good stuff. And for Shaman, it'll basically just be blasting shock spells and using your spells on cooldown. You want to burn through your mana as quickly as possible and then eat and drink. And the Owl gear is basically there to help synergize with your Intellect gear to help you with that recovery rate, if that makes any sense. I've looked at the math basically from all angles, and that's basically what it is. So at level 40, I'm going to scroll down to level 40 because this is what we had. Whoa. What's going on with Shaman? You should have dual wielding, so shut the hell up. Okay, cool. um, So basically in Classic World of Warcraft at level 50, both Shaman and Paladin would be sitting around 200-ish spirit if they were like in heavy spirit gear. And the way the math works for them is they would take their spirit number, they would divide it by 5, and then they would add 15, like a base amount of 15. And this is the amount of mana you would get per tick for spirit regeneration for Classic World of Warcraft with those stats. In TBC, it's completely different because now your intellect stat is also acting like a half-ass spirit regeneration stat. It's almost as valuable as your spirit regen, which is what is causing the intellect stat to be even more valuable in TBC leveling than it is in Classic World of Warcraft leveling. And in Classic World, wow, a leveling strategy of I'm going to wear all stamina intellect gear. I'm going to have a mix of like stamina intellect and the owl gear, like literally like you see right here. And then bursting your enemies down and then eating and drinking and bursting your enemies down was a very, very close in performance to the stamina spirit builds. Okay? The only reason the stamina spirit builds outpace them is because what would happen would be your water would get super out of date. And when your water is out of date, the spirit gear is noticeably better than the of the eagle build. But when your water is up to date, like you've gotten like, fresh water, like level 55, you're getting fresh water. Level 45, you're getting fresh water, like, stuff like that. When you got fresh water, the of the eagle gear builds felt amazing. But when your water is super out of date, the spirit gear was just arguably better. And that having less of a roller coaster ride just ended up being overall better for your builds. So rather than bearing the lead here. So anyways, as you saw, it was like a 55 mana regeneration in Classic World of Warcraft at level 40. If we take the stats here, it would be 176 intellect, square rooted, and then we'd multiply that by the spirit that we currently have, which is 136. And then we have to multiply that again by our random bullshit number of 18654. And you can see that we have closer to 34 mana per tick. So we have a lot less mana regeneration than we do in TBC compared to the spirit gear. My bad. In Classic World of Warcraft, the spirit gear build would have a hell of a lot more mana regeneration than this thing. Damn it! What? I'm trying to showcase this. Fuck. We'll just do it. Who gives a crap? I'm gonna tell you right now that if this was stamina spirit gear mixed with of the owl gear rather than of the eagle gear mixed with of the owl gear, our stats would look something more like this. It would be like 100 square rooted, which is kind of the ideal number. You don't really get... Yeah. So the square root system basically means that 100 intellect is basically where it starts capping off. So that ends up being 10. It would be 10 multiplied by 200, because that would be our spirit stat, if you recall correctly, equals, and then we'd have to divide that by the annoying ass number of 18,654, and it would be this. So the difference between us wearing an intellect heavy suit with some spirit versus a spirit heavy suit with some intellect is this difference in spirit regeneration ticks. It's nothing. It's literally fucking nothing. For this reason, the spirit gear is greatly devalued in the TBC pre-patch. Assuming the TBC pre-patch is using the TBC spirit regeneration changes. If not, the spirit gear is just arguably better. If it's still classic World of Warcraft spirit regeneration, then dear God, wear spirit gear. But if it's not, then yeah, we're going to wear the intellect gear, because the intellect gear is acting like spirit regeneration gear during the TBC pre-patch. Now, the next question you might have for Shaman specifically is, what happens when we go above level 40? Because once we go above level 40, or once we're at level 40, we suddenly start to have access to dual wield, and dual wield starts getting really fucking good, really fucking fast, and eventually we get access to Shamanistic Rage, and once we get access to Shamanistic Rage, isn't attack power a better stat than even stamina? And the answer to that is probably, except attack power gear, male gear, doesn't fucking exist in classic WoW. So you'll notice that we have no of the bear options here. If I scroll down to like before level 40, we can see of the bear gear exists. This is because no shamans aren't wearing this gear. Hunters aren't wearing this gear. Only warriors and paladins have access to male gear prior to level 40. But once level 40 happens, those classes start wearing plate mail, and the hunters and the shamans start wearing the male gear. And so because of that, any gear above level 40 that is male doesn't have of the bear, and it doesn't have of the tiger, which is what you'd want to fucking wear for the dual wielding, shamanistic rage, blah, 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 blah. So literally the gear does not exist for us to have a conversation as to whether or not attack power is better. The only way you could be wearing attack power and dual wielding on your shaman is if you just said, fuck it, I'm going to still wear leather gear. Which at that point, you're losing so much goddamn armor that it's not even worth it to have this fucking topic of conversation. What makes dual wielding good is the fact that you're wearing male gear. So it's like, fuck. Once you get into Outland, then it becomes incredibly good for you to be wearing attack power gear. But prior to going into Outland, you're basically just better off sticking with of the Eagle gear and of the Owl gear. And then doing this whole, I burn down my enemies, then I eat and drink. I burn down my enemies, then I eat and drink. You're going to be doing a lot of melee attacking, a lot of pulling with shock spells. You're basically just going to live off of, the only buttons you're ever going to push is basically going to be lightning shield, your shock spells pretty much on cooldown, and then you're going to put down a searing totem, and you're just going to beat things to death. That's what you're going to do to be as mana efficient as possible, but you're not really interested in your spirit regeneration. We still want the spirit regeneration because it will help us to recover faster when we do sit down and eat and drink, and it will definitely help us mitigate the negative effects of having out-of-date water, which is what really makes the build bad. For Paladin, you're going to find yourself in a very similar circumstance. Gear on this guy is like super out of date. Or is it? Level 40? No? Weird? Okay. For Paladin, you're going to be in a very similar situation where one of the fastest ways to level your Paladin past level 40 and even up to level 40 was Stamina Intellect. Stamina Intellect becomes really, really fucking good once you hit level 40, level 42 specifically, because that's when your AoE grinding really kicked in for Paladin. The Spirit gear ended up being better because of the water issues, and it ended up being better on a PvP server because it was very hard to pull groups of 4 packs of mobs at a time and burn them down without getting ganked by enemies. And on a PvE server, it was so crowded that it was also really hard to get like 4 plus enemies together in one place and burn them down as your paladin. Whereas the spirit gear had very similar AoE leveling performance, but it only needed to grab like 3 enemies at a time and burn them down. 3 enemies at a time and burn them down. So the spirit gear just ended up being better for a variety of reasons. But since the eagle gear is now acting like half-ass spirit gear in TBC, beyond any shadow of a doubt, a mix of the eagle gear and of the owl gear is going to be BiS on your paladin. Since you are AoE farming, you're going to want more stamina than like the shaman. So the shaman is going to be like 50% eagle gear and 50% owl gear. That will give them like a plus 50% to their HP bar. Whereas the paladin, you're going to want like every last bit of gear being of the eagle gear, with the exception of like your neck pieces, your rings, and your back. That'll give you like that magical 2/3, 1/3 ratio that you really want on your paladin. You don't want too much health on your paladin, but you don't want too little health on your paladin. And the same thing kind of goes for shaman. The build that you're going to be using to level as a paladin is basically going to be Holy Shield. You can theoretically come down and get Crusader Strike and level with that at level 50, but it's still not going to be as good as having Holy Shield. Holy Shield is worth its weight in gold while you're leveling. It's good in Classic. Like in Classic WoW, Holy Shield with Spirit Gear is fucking amazing. And then you pull like 3 mobs and you burn them down. It is fucking amazing. But in TBC, they basically double the value of Holy Shield by the time you're like level 42. They gave you an 8 charges Holy Shield with like a plus 20% damage modifier. Like, what the fuck? So in Classic World of Warcraft, it's like I push button, I get Holy Shield, but it only has 4 charges. In TBC, it's I push button, I get Holy Shield. Now it has 8 fucking charges, and which is pretty much the maximum amount that you're going to expend while pulling like 4 mobs at a time. And on top of that, it has 20% more damage. Like, holy shit, this thing is fucking amazing. So, AoE, also on top of that, Reckoning is far better for AoE farming than it is in Classic World of Warcraft. This 10% chance to activate is noticeably better than like the 6% chance that the mobs have to crit you in Classic World of Warcraft. On top of that, you're getting multiple charges of Reckoning out of it, whereas in Classic World of Warcraft, you'd only get like a 1 charge out of it. So even if the mobs were still critting us at like a 10% ratio, which is what I feel like they're doing in Classic WoW at least, you're only getting 1 charge, whereas this would give you 4 charges out of it. So the 2 things that are going Super Saiyan for your AoE Paladin here are the fact that your Holy Shield is more than doubled in its effectiveness, and your Reckoning is effectively doubled in its effectiveness for AoE farming. So beyond any shadow of a doubt, you're going to want to do AoE farming as a Paladin, and by far the best gear for you for an AoE farming Paladin is Eagle gear, and since it's also doubling as Spirit gear, I mean, what the fuck are we even talking about at this point? Theoretically, elephants in the room is that Consecration in TBC has a really good spell power ratio behind it. In Classic WoW, Consecration has a 33% spell power ratio over the entirety of its 8-second duration. In TBC, it has closer to a 100% spell power ratio over the entirety of its duration. So spell power gear on your Paladin while spamming Consecration is absolutely a thing in TBC. The problem is spell power gear doesn't really exist while you're leveling in Classic World of Warcraft, trying to get up to level 60. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, what if I'm like level 45 and I have 5 points in Holy Guidance? Well, the answer is this would give you like 70 spell power, and it's not worth anywhere near the losses that you're having on your AoE Paladin. Like, you're missing Reckoning, which is worth so much fucking mana. Regeneration, it's not even funny. You're missing Blessing of Sanctuary, which is worth so much mitigation, which is not even funny. You're missing Holy Shield, which is worth both damage and mitigation, which is not even funny. Just for like small bonuses to the DPS of your Consecration. Like, what the fuck are we even talking about here? Your Consecration is cheaper by 10% due to Purifying Power. If we can find enemies to use our Exorcism on, Holy Shock is really good. You still have Holy Shock, which is also really good. The huge elephant in the room in all this is that don't get me wrong, Holy Shock is probably pretty decent to level with, is that you're losing durability on your Paladin to gain like the spell power and the Holy Shock and on all the other stuff. And durability on the Paladin is what is allowing you to wear all these pieces of the Owl gear. So it's kind of like maybe Holy Shock would be good if you were just like killing one mob at a time and like you're wearing Peer of the Owl gear. Maybe that's decent. But one thing I can tell you that's going to absolutely be fucking disgustingly good in pre-patch is going to be Deep Prot Paladin. Like, holy fuck. On top of that, you also have combat expertise. So at level 70, these 5 points in combat expertise is worth... well, let's just put it in here really fast. Let's go all the way to level 70. Zoink. Let's put 5 points here. Let's put 5 points here. Let's look at our combat expertise. So you can see that our 5 points in expertise at level 70 is reducing the chance to be dodged or parried by 1.25% for my enemies. If you're putting 5 points into that at on level, which I do believe is like level 50... yeah, it's like that's like level 47, level 48, level 49, stuff like that. It's going to be reducing the enemy's chance to dodge or parry you by something like 5%. At those lower levels. So it's not like putting the extra 5 points here isn't worth its weight in gold. You also have the 5 points that you could throw over here, theoretically. Increase all damage you deal while wielding a one-handed weapon by 5%. That's probably going to move the needle more for you and your DPS output than Holy Guidance would. Holy Shield is just worth its fucking weight in gold. Like, what the hell are we even talking about here? So anyways, that's the TLDR. I'm trying really hard to make a short video here. I'm ending the video here, and Data Assault. Yeah, and the TLDR is basically we're going to be wearing a lot of Intellect gear in the pre-patch because the Intellect gear is basically also Spirit gear in TBC as well. If they're still using the classic WoW Spirit regeneration mechanics, then Spirit gear is basically the way to go. But considering how buffed up the other stats are, you're going to be wanting to wear a bunch of the Owl gear as well because you can get away with it due to increased durability from Holy Shield having 8 charges now rather than 4. Anyways, I'll end the video here. Day Assault.